All right.
Ooh, I got to turn on Do Not Disturb. I didn't do that last time, and nobody called me, which is great.
That's awesome.
Oh,
It's,
neat.
we're having a storm here, so Chewy's going crazy. That's why I'm constantly going out of shot to open
Okay.
up the door and close the door again. So
No problem, dude. No problem. I've got Indy in here.
sweet.
Can you see her?
Mm-hmm.
There she is. Hi, Indy. She's right by the door, like, let me out. All right, let's do this. Sorry. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3, click. We can keep this one light and easy
Of course.
in under 1 hour.
Yes.
All right. 1, 2, 3, clap.
Clap. 1, 2, 3, clap.
Clap.
You're listening to the Two Gomers podcast, a show about two regular guys in their 40s embracing midlife, chasing healthy aging, and inviting a nation along for the run. This is episode 414, Ask Good Questions, for August 9th, 2024.
Welcome, everybody, to the Two Gomers podcast. This is Anthony speaking. Oh, sorry. Welcome, everyone, to the Two Gomers. Welcome, everybody, to episode 414 of the Two Gomers podcast. This is Anthony speaking, one of those two aforementioned Gomers coming to you from Atlanta, Georgia, with my friend Steven, all the way out in Flagstaff, Arizona.
Is August summer done for you guys?
Yeah, dude, August 9th, this comes out. By the time this comes out, the girls would have been in school already for almost a week and a half.
Wow.
Isn't
They
that
start in
crazy?
July.
Well, okay, so the girls start August 1st,
Okay.
and Aaron started today. So Aaron's
Wow.
back at work right now, dude.
Yeah, farewell to summer.
Yep,
It's a
totally.
shame. Yeah. Yep. Still, fall is nice.
Dude, I mean, because coming up on our 16th anniversary with the podcast,
That's right.
there are so many seasons, man. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, summer was awesome. We'll talk a little bit about some summer wrap up,
Yeah.
but um, it's been a really good one, and I'm also looking forward to fall, man. I mean, you just think about. I mean, we're only in August, but it's
Mm-hmm.
like think about Badger football.
Oh,
Think about
yeah.
leaves.
Foliage. Our new
Oh,
foliage commitment on Perfect movie that we made. Remember that?
mm.
We're from
Well,
now on, we want to make sure we look at the leaves to try to
yeah,
figure out what the seasons are
yeah,
in the movies that we
yeah.
watched.
In movies, like we talked about Fatal Attraction, like what season is it
Obviously,
based on?
fall.
Yep.
The,
Yes, we
the
love.
National
Yeah.
Treasure was hard for us to figure out, right? Like because it
Right.
feels like a summer movie, but also
Yep.
they're wearing those jackets from Urban Outfitters.
Yeah. Triple layers.
Hmm.
Totally.
The answer
That's
lies in the foliage.
yeah. And there's tons of running in that movie,
Oh yeah.
and in all those layers just doesn't work.
Now running does get way better in the fall.
Mm, I know. I cannot wait, dude.
Yeah.
It's beast. It's not beast mode around here, but it's feels beasty. I don't know what
What do you
I'm
mean?
drinking beet juice.
He's
I don't know.
drinking beets. He's got beets on the mind. He's
I,
drinking beets here, folks.
I'm drinking beet juice,
Okay.
and that's I'm not trying to like pretend I'm healthy. I'm legit drinking this because it's delicious.
Virtue signal much?
Hmm,
He's
hmm.
drinking beets. Actually, let's actually get right into the app because we're going to talk about asking good questions.
Mm,
But how we're going to start this one is Anthony's been talking about his July. He's drinking
mm.
beet juice right now, so something's happening in his July.
Getting
Um,
back on that horse, right?
right? We talked about getting back on the horse. We talked about changing things, and so we're actually going to start this episode. Our opening segment is going to be a Gomer update, and then we're going to go to the core where we take a deeper look at a way we're chasing health in midlife. This week is ask good questions. And then we're going to end with what's giving us life this week. And of course, a ton of fun stuff along the way. But first, here on the Two Gomers podcast, we want to take big strides forward toward health, but sometimes we need to update you on some things we talked about on previous episodes. Not really a mouthful, I just had a hard time saying it. Now it's time for a Gomer update.
Nice. Let's clap there. 1, 2, 3, clap.
Clap. 1, 2, 3, clap.
Clap. Great.
All right, Anthony. You had a big July. You were getting back on the horse. I
Mm-hmm.
felt like people will want to know, as July is now done. Well, sort of.
Right.
For the people listening, July is in their rear view. We're ending
Yeah.
July in a couple days.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted a little bit of an update. I thought other people would appreciate one too.
Yeah.
Can you kind of remind us what your July commitment
Yeah.
was?
Yep. So end of June, went to the doctor, didn't get the best
Mm.
test results. I mean, nothing, terrible, but just the blood sugar, the cholesterol,
Yep.
all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, we joked about that we go to Taco Bell too much, and had her laughing, which is always fun.
Yep.
And then, as all doctors say, she's like, yeah, you probably should shed a few lbs.
Did she give you a number? Did she say 20?
Doctor's orders.
Because
No,
usually
she
my doctor
didn't.
says 10 or 20.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my chiropractor said similar things.
Okay. Yeah.
Running friends of ours, it's like you're just like traveling light is something
Mm-hmm.
that that we talk about. Like even when we watched Free Solo, like we just recorded Close Encounters, and we were talking
Mm-hmm.
about Free Solo a little bit, like what would it be like to climb Devil's Tower?
Yeah.
And it's like just having less to carry
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yep.
physically.
That's interesting to me that your chiropractor would mention it.
Yeah, I mean, it's these bones, right? Entropy, everything's falling apart. No, it's not falling apart. I mean, we're 45 and 46. Come on, we got lots of time where it's great.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
this is that hinge point where sometimes you got to check the tires a little bit, kick those.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, that's when the car is brand new. No,
Kick the
that's
tires
not.
and light the fires. That's what you're trying to do.
Yeah, sun's out, guns out. So, so I haven't been doing a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
Although have got a lot of sun.
Great job.
But anyways, she wanted that, and then I had just the goal of honestly feeling better, like not waking up so achy and so like just lethargic and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So Aaron and I decided to do something drastic.
Yep.
And jumpstart the health. And
Mhm.
again, the why is we want to be healthier.
Yep.
We want to feel healthier.
Yeah.
Not assigning any sort of moral judgment onto food,
Right.
that kind of stuff. So we're just about completed with Whole30. What is it? July.
The
Today's
25th today. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I would say other than 2 or 3 days, it's been flawless.
Okay. Great.
Which is great. A friend of mine, I heard this great talk from this cello player last week in Chicago, and he was talking about performing.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, when you have a mistake, one thing I tell myself is don't let your mistakes have babies.
I like that.
And I was like, that is so good. I told him, I was like, Amos, I'm stealing that, and I will always attribute that to you, but that's so good.
Next week I'm saying it on my podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But and so then I told him, I was like, I'm a child of the 80s, and so that immediately sent me to think about Gremlins.
Okay. Yeah.
And I was like, what, like if you break the rules with Mogwai Gizmo, right? You get more babies, but then they're really ugly.
Those weird little things pop out of them, and they're all like those gross balls, and then they come out and they're all slimy, and then then you've got Stripe on your hands. Is that his name? Stripe? The lead gremlin? Spike? Stripe?
Spike?
Oh boy, you don't want a Stripe on your hands. You're gonna have to put them in the microwave and blow them up.
Oh, yuck. We talked about that. We're like images from our childhood that you can't erase.
Yeah.
Yuck. Wait, so what are the rules again?
Can't feed them after midnight, can't get them wet, and they don't like bright lights.
Bright light. Okay. So is there anything? So I was thinking about, so when we were talking about it, we were talking about performance.
Uh-huh.
Like nothing's perfect, right?
Yep.
just like this month wasn't perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But when you slip up or when you whatever,
Mm-hmm.
don't let it have babies. So
Right.
maybe something after midnight.
Don't feed. How about don't
Don't.
feed the mistake, right? Or don't like,
Mm,
there's something there. I get what you mean though, right? Like
yeah,
move on. It's
yeah. Move
don't
on.
let it take over your house and destroy the town.
Totally. And then that made me think of your mantra, which is you can always start again,
Right. Yep.
which I just love. So dude, yeah, 25 days in. I mentioned this last week because last week we were like 12 days in, or
Mm-hmm.
last time we recorded. And dude, like just I'm gonna throw some alliteration at you.
Sure.
We've been prioritizing protein and plants over packages, and
Are there more peas coming?
that's it.
Okay.
We could think of more.
No, that's okay. I'm good. That's enough peas.
Uh, but seriously,
Prioritizing protein and plants over packages.
yeah,
Pretty good.
like we noticed because I mean, with Whole30, it's like everything is scratch made,
Right.
and you're doing a serious, um, like you're cooking a lot.
Yeah.
And so I was talking to some of our friends because we had them over for dinner. I don't think I mentioned this last time. And we were like, "Hey, friends, you know, we're gonna have you over for dinner, your whole family, and we're doing this thing. But I think we can make a meal, and you won't even barely notice it."
Hmm.
And you know, we had fajitas, chicken and steak.
Yeah.
You make some ground beef, make some picadillo, which is like one of our favorite things to make
But
lately.
no tortillas.
But no tortillas,
Right.
no rice, no beans. That's
Mm.
like
Hmm.
so no sour cream, no beer. I mean, so it's like okay.
So you barely notice it, but you probably notice it a little bit.
Well, so but then for the kids and for
Yeah.
them, we
Yep.
served that stuff.
Oh, I see. Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we
So it's
we
not
served
like you're
that
saying,
stuff.
sorry, you can come over, but you have to eat only protein and
Right.
plants.
Yeah,
You guys did
we're
that.
only acai bowls or
Come on
without
over.
I don't know. Only tuna from a can. There's a package though. But it was fun.
Uh-huh.
And like we made all our own stuff, and so we've been there's always like those times where it's like, okay, we're entertaining. So
Yep.
you gotta change what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Or you're celebrating, so you gotta change what you're doing.
Right. Or you're
Or
on vacation, you're traveling.
you're on vacation. Yeah, like I was in
Mm-hmm.
Chicago all last week, right?
Right.
Next to deep dish pizza at every moment and
Did you have
Italian
some? Did
beef.
you have some?
Yeah, so I texted you.
Yep.
So
I was not a good help for you in your diet. I was like, eat that whole thing, bro.
yeah, yep. So I did sample the
Good.
pizza. It was free.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? And you're like, they're supplying you with like this, you know?
Your supplier. Yeah.
Right. So, but that's the thing with it is then your next meal just go back to your thing.
Sure. Yep.
You know what I mean?
I did say
Um,
that. I did text you and say, just eat it and then go back to what you're doing. That's good practice for when this month is done, right?
for sure.
Um, my biggest question, I think, is do you, if your goal was to feel better, um, you look great, just so you know, you look great. But I'm wondering
Mhm.
how you feel, how you're feeling after the 25 days so far.
Yeah, dude. So I gotta say, it feels so dang good.
What feels
I
different?
feel so like I was thinking about like when the world went into quarantine and the
Hmm.
earth like healed in like
Okay.
a
Yeah.
month.
Yep. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
That's I mean, I kind of feel like that.
Huh.
And like I just feel less lethargic. I feel less, dude, I'm way less achy. So I don't know if that's that I eat a lot of sugar, that I
I,
eat a lot of processed foods,
yeah.
that I eat a lot of I don't know what's in, you know,
A lot of
a
chemicals, a
gordita
lot
or
of,
a crunch wrap.
oh man,
Um,
yum.
I know,
Whatever it is
right?
tastes good, but it makes your bones hurt for some reason.
Yeah, well, and it's like that all the time. So I feel like the food industry, and I'm
Uh-huh.
not going to get on a high horse or anything like that, but it's
Okay.
just like I just think there is so much stuff in our food.
Hmm.
And when you go to eating only whole food, almost exclusively without any sugar,
Yeah.
like just cold turkey.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm having this beet juice right now, so I'm sure there's sugar in that, but it's not. I don't know. I mean, like, dude, like my shorts right now, I could literally just pull them off, like
Amazing.
khaki shorts,
Uh-huh.
my
I mean, don't
t-shirt.
you could do that too because the people wouldn't see it on the
Oh
screen
yeah,
even.
that's true.
He's doing it. He's actually
Just
doing
kidding.
it, pulling off his pants. It's a first on the podcast. Actually, it might not be. Um, well, wait, he took them completely off. He's holding him up by his head.
So dumb. I'm sorry.
That is definitely the thing I've been most curious about with the coming to the end of your month is it sounds like you feel less lethargic.
Yeah,
You're less achy. That is super interesting to me.
dude, I'm
That's less
serious.
inflammation, right?
So that's got to be inflammation.
Yep.
Um, it's not the same thing as last time where I did Whole30
Hmm.
during heading into the midlife crisis, and I was just so anxious and all this
Yeah.
other stuff that I couldn't
Yep.
eat.
Hmm.
Dude, I will tell you, like all the things that people say, but like food tastes so much better.
Mm. Wow.
Um, because aren't all these extraneous like carb calories where you're just it's like you know just eating tons of like white bread.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, I love white bread, and we have our sourdough starter waiting to make sourdough
Waiting
again.
for Whole30 to be done.
Yeah, but the thing is, I think it's sort of like a cool recalibration.
Yep. What it sounds
Because
like.
I don't know, I had forgotten over the last 4+ years, 5 years since we did this last time, how much I had just like started to make just eat so much processed food.
Hmm. Yep.
And so just focusing more on the lean proteins and tons of plants,
Hmm.
um, just feels great. So, I think my gut health feels better.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Weight falls off when you do this,
Hmm.
and um, and it's been fun to be creative.
Yeah. Huh.
This is what I was going to say. We were saying that July seems like the dumbest month to do this.
Okay.
It's like parties and hanging
Uh-huh.
out and
Travel. Hmm.
travel and then I was like, actually July was like the perfect month to do this because me and Aaron were home
Right.
minus that 1 week.
You have
Uh
way more control over what you're eating because it's the summer and you're at home and you're cooking more.
yeah, because that's like probably our number one problem during the other months of the year is that 4:30, 5:30 comes around and you're like, what's for dinner?
Yep.
And that is the worst time to ask that question.
We talked about
Be-
that on our Cook at Home app for sure. Like,
yep.
yeah. I hadn't thought of that, but you're right. July was a great time for you to do it. That's awesome.
Yep. And that's all thanks to Aaron being like, let's do something crazy.
Yeah, for sure. Let's get
So
back on that
thank
horse.
you, Aaron. I love you. She listens to the podcast.
Hello, Aaron.
So she's probably out walking, smiling right now. And
Whatever
she
we can do.
says she's feeling really great
That's
also.
awesome. Great.
And so we'll just figure out how to integrate things slowly back
Yeah.
because dude, we're going to freaking do rice and beans.
Uh-huh.
Like we're going to do stuff. But like she's trying to find as we add things back in how to have them be as good
Right.
like as the just eat food thing
Hmm.
as possible.
How do you this was an unusual month, but how do you bring some of the things that you experience that are good that you learned into actual life and how it actually works?
Yep.
I think that's great. I mean, one thing you miss is the $5 meal at McDonald's. It's so friggin' much food.
Dang
I
it.
can't wait till you get to eat that.
Yeah, I mean, at Starbucks, I got my Starbucks coffee, and
Uh-huh.
they've now got their $5 meal deal.
Everybody's doing it, bro.
Yep. So
Well, I'm very inspired. I hope the nation is too. Great job. You did it. You actually got back on the horse.
thanks,
Amazing,
dude.
bro.
I would love to see how those blood sugar numbers are doing
Yeah, if you find that out, we'd love an update on that too.
for sure. So
All
I
right,
wish
dude.
I had something to report on that, but I don't.
But
But
when you do, we want to hear it.
yep, you got it.
All right, let's head into the core.
Sweet. All right, let's clap. 1, 2, 3, clap,
Clap. 1, 2, 3, clap.
clap.
Can we do that again?
Yeah.
Something
Well,
skipped or something when we did that. Sorry.
okay, got it. Yep. 1, 2, 3, clap,
Clap. 1, 2, 3, clap.
clap.
Oh, that's way
Much
better.
better.
All right.
All right. Hey, how's it going over there? Oh my gosh. I can't wait to hear about asking good questions. I always ask questions, but then I just wait and wait to give my own response and tell them instead I'm listening. So tell me how to do it better.
Well, we hope you can help. We hope we can help you, Dr. Knutson. You know, he's got a lot on his mind.
Yeah, dude, always solving problems and helping people.
Yeah. And so we can forgive him for not knowing how exactly to ask good questions. This is a long-awaited sequel to our Listen Closely episode from, I think it was September of last year, so almost a year
Mm,
ago. We did Listen Closely. On that episode, we promised a sequel, a follow-up that focused more closely on the question asking part of it.
yeah.
So that's what we're going to do today. Ask good questions, ask better questions. Um, can I just do a quick review on the Listen Closely
Yeah.
app?
Please do.
So the three things that I asked resident expert Jessica Grauman to share with me, if you
Mm,
were going to give uh, good advice on listening closely. We worked together to come up with these three, and the three things were: number one, talk less;
mm,
number two, don't come in with your own agenda.
mm.
And so you're actually leading the conversation to where you want it to be instead of actually asking them what they think and listening
Yep.
to them. And then the third one was that somehow actually care about the other person.
Actually care.
Actually care. Um, and like I said, we started talking about questions, and we did talk a little bit about questions on that app. I just re-listened to it. It's pretty good.
Sweet.
So if you want to listen to that, listener, if you're new, you can go back and listen to that. I think it was September, early September of 2023. We're going to focus this one more on what makes a good question, how to ask good questions. This is all around improving relational health. So a lot of times we talk
Mm,
about physical health, we talk about mental health, we talk about our, like, I don't know, what other kind of health, our wills, whether we're going to do something or not.
yeah, mental, spiritual, physical,
Spiritual health, definitely.
relational.
Yeah. Familial. So this
Mm,
this lands very solidly in the relational, familial, um,
yep.
even professional health,
Sure. Yeah. Oh yeah, I mean like I looked up that article I sent you from the Harvard Business
right?
Review talking about different ways of listening. So it's definitely on the professional realm as well.
Lots when you Google this kind of stuff, how do I ask better questions? How do I listen more closely? A lot of it is in business magazines and business blogs and things like that.
So how do you okay, so here's a question I have for you
Uh-huh.
is how do you do this and incorporate it naturally so that it's actually not just because I read it in the Harvard Business Review and because it's how I get more followers or I
Right.
close that deal or like how do you do it without being like an operator?
Because then you're going against that third tip from last time, which is you actually care about the other
Right.
person, right?
Yep.
But and I will just name that it is when you do ask good questions, what I found in my role, and I'm sure other people will agree with this if they have some experience in this, when you do ask better questions, you do gain uh likability, approachability, you're more relatable, and that can
Mm,
be really helpful
mm,
when you're trying to network and you're trying to succeed in business, you know,
yep.
like making how to make friends. I can't remember there was this really famous book in the 80s or something about how to make friends and make people like you. I can't remember what it was called.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so that is a part of it, but I get your question, which is how does this actually become something beyond just getting what I want professionally, networking better? I
Yeah.
don't think it's bad to be likable.
Oh, yeah, definitely not. I was just thinking, like one of the classic tips is use somebody's name,
Mm-hmm.
which
Yep,
is great. We talked about that in the
we did.
um but like I've been in situations, and maybe you're on the like maybe I'm repeating myself, but like just beneath the surface you're like, you're just saying my name cuz
Uh-huh.
you want me to like you.
Well,
And let me
because
tell you,
I
Anthony.
I know the business Harvard Business Review article you read about what you're doing right now because I read it
Right.
too.
Now you're asking a follow-up.
You're,
Okay.
you're saying my name 3 times in the conversation, so you can say it next time. Um, I mean, for me, it's a check on the why, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
that's great.
I actually, I think that I've been doing this long enough where I know when I'm doing it and it's artificial, and I get a sinking feeling that the person I'm talking to knows it also.
If that ever happens, do you name that?
Yes,
Be like,
I, my main,
you're a namer. You like,
like my main strategy in most of these, and in conversations that are weird, even if I'm gonna preach and I'm talking about something weird, is to say that it's weird.
hmm,
Like I
yeah,
recognize what I'm doing right now is weird, or I will stop and say, "Oh man, that sounded weird. Sorry."
hmm,
Like,
yeah,
I'll keep a check on that even when I'm having a conversation. My job is a lot of conversations.
yeah.
The bulk of my job is talking to people.
Which is
Um,
why you went through your throat thing.
that's right. So that'll teach me.
That'll teach you to shut up.
I was at the doctor this morning. We don't have
Oh,
time to talk
really?
about this, about my my club leg, which is still happening.
Oh man.
And the I've been to all sorts of doctors, and the doctor this morning said, I think it's because you're running. I was like,
Okay.
man, you can't win. So I had to have throat surgery because I talk.
Mm-hmm. Huh.
Now I have this club leg because I thought I was doing the right thing, which is running. I think that everybody has a different theory. I'm not going to take this one that seriously. But,
Yeah.
anyways, my job is a lot of talking. And so I've had to grow in this. And it is a great question. How do you have these conversations? How do you ask good questions and keep a check on yourself that it's not just for your own benefit?
Mm. Yep.
Um, I just wanted to mention this thing. It's weird when I talk on the main feed about something we talked about on a very deep into the Patreon episode.
Yeah.
So we were talking on our Truman Show results show episode on the
Yep.
Patreon about this concept of main character energy. Remember this?
Mm. Yeah.
Um, and I don't think I explained it very well because it's actually when people say that about somebody, it's definitely a negative.
Mm-hmm.
Like that person has main character energy. They think they're the only character that matters in their story. Um,
Yep.
you said in that conversation, like, I saw that happening at that party we were at in
Oh, in
Oregon,
Sun.
remember?
Yeah. Yeah.
In Sun
Yep.
River. Um, and you were giving me a compliment, I think, which was even as an introvert, you were able to have
Yep.
conversations and people really liked you at that party. And I took it as a compliment.
Yeah.
Um,
Definitely.
that's different than main character energy. What I was doing at that party was I knew I was going into this party and I knew nobody.
Right. And you could have dropped a bomb and left, and I would have had to clean up the pieces because you never probably will see those people again.
I could have done whatever I wanted in that space because we had already climbed a mountain that day, and you're like, oh, and
Right.
by the way, we have 2 parties that we're supposed to go to tonight. One is our hostess making us dinner, and also we have this orchestra party where you know no one. Here we go to both of them. So I took it in stride. This is part of my job. But the reason why I think I did well at that party was I just asked so many questions.
Right.
And I just kind of steeled myself before I went into this house and I was like, I'm going to be curious. I'm going to ask good questions. It was easy to do because that house was so unique.
That was totally, yeah.
Like the guy that owned the house like worked for Kodak or something, and so they'd
Yep.
been all over the world, and so I just walked around with the hostess and asked her, "What's that? What's that?"
Yep.
Like genuinely curious. I've never seen that artifact before, and she was, I don't know, she'll never listen to this. She was putty in my hands
Yeah.
because when you have a house and you've been all over the world and you put stuff up, all you want is for people to ask you questions about that stuff.
Totally.
And so I didn't know anybody, and so I just asked them their name, said it 3 times in the conversation. Actually, I don't think I did.
Ask to follow up.
I asked deeper questions, and so I think that's why I you even noticed, oh, Steven did pretty well in that situation. Not because I was like, this night's about me,
Right.
but I'm gonna make this night about everybody else. And then people were like, "Oh, you're leaving already?" When we left, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm tired. See you later."
Right. Bye. No, well, you didn't say that. But
No.
the I think we're probably going to repeat a lot of stuff, and I didn't listen back to that episode, and I should have. I was busy researching for Close Encounters, which we just recorded also.
Right. That takes a long time.
But I think going into that party, or forget that party, just a chat in general,
Mm-hmm.
is not needing to be the main character,
Yep.
loving the other person, even if you
Yep.
don't like them,
Mm-hmm.
maybe.
Two different things. I'm
Totally,
not kidding. Those are two different things, right?
100%. Yep. I mean, the give, serve, love thing we've been
Uh-huh.
talking about for episodes and episodes.
Yeah.
Um, but then not not having an agenda and not needing to prove yourself.
Right.
Because I mean, I think that's I get embarrassed for me, goosebumps, thinking about
Mm-hmm.
so many times where I've gone to something and I'm like, I just want to make sure that it's known that I'm awesome or
You
that I'm
told the
funny.
story on that episode
I did.
about the guy saying, "Why are you reading me your resume right now?"
Yep.
Um,
And you didn't come to that party. When we hung out with the Myers, right? And
mhm.
we played games.
Yep.
And didn't we try some Coke
We
or
tried,
something?
yeah, there was some sort of like, I can't remember what kind of
Was it
Coke it
Space
was.
Coke or
It was
one of
something
the
like
new
that.
Coke flavors?
Right. Yep.
No need to prove or
Mm-mm.
impress.
Yep.
Just have fun and like want to learn. Like I love talking with Richard as an example, the
Hmm.
host dad out there. Whenever I'm out there, I'm just like, tell me more about your life. How did you get here? Like, how were you a
Right.
musician and a composer and an arranger and a writer, and you have this house? Like, how did you
Hmm.
do that?
Right.
Like, maybe seek to understand uh, and to honor.
Yep.
Like, man, dude.
That's a big deal. Yep. The questions that you ask, I love that. I don't have that anywhere in my notes, but you're right on. The questions that you ask people, honor them.
Mm,
Um, because I actually think it's pretty rare where a person would feel like I'm with a person that cares about me
hmm,
and cares about knowing more about me,
mm,
that people feel honored and loved. We talked about that a lot in the listen closely, that people want to be loved, and these things go hand in hand. If you're curious about them, if you're spending time with them, listening to them closely, that combination basically equals love.
mm. Yeah, that's right.
So um I won't I don't want to completely ignore that asking good questions is good for your health. Like when you ask somebody a good question, you listen well, it's good for your memory. It it's it
Yeah.
it helps you process information better than if you're just thinking about yourself. It gives you a broader understanding of the world around you and people that don't agree with you. It raises your empathy. So that's true about
Hmm.
asking good questions and listening well. But I'm glad we started with this, which is a real key here is wanting to honor other people and love other people.
Mm.
Um, Basically, all I have left is tips now about how to ask better questions.
Ooh, okay. I need to. I'm sure I talked about this. Should have listened to it again. But I told you that I don't remember like anything.
Uh-huh.
And probably a part of that is, I mean, part of it's just my brain isn't built like that.
Sure.
So it's like information comes in here, and
Mm-hmm.
unless I'm insanely interested in it,
Yeah, we've talked about this before. It's very similar, I think, to anybody, right? You have to be
yeah.
really interested in something to remember it. Yeah.
Yeah, like why can I remember details of like a recipe I saw on a reel on Instagram?
Uh-huh.
It like it spoke to like my desire center to make the perfect chicken
Yep.
cutlet or whatever.
Yeah. Yep.
Uh, but if it's like, you know what? Sometimes it's like if it's information somebody's telling you about their kids that you've
Mm-hmm.
never met,
Mm-hmm.
and you're like, I don't know. I mean, just being, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure people can relate to that, or some subject that you're like, what is happening here right now? How did I get into this conversation?
Yeah, there definitely are that. And I think those kinds of conversations are probably just part of life and unavoidable. I do think that there are ways to ask questions so that you are better engaged in those
Yeah,
kinds of
yeah.
moments.
Well, so I guess what I'm thinking is along the lines of what you're saying,
Mm-hmm.
could we practice, and that's, and then it's a little bit selfish then also, but it's like practice your memory skills.
Yeah.
Like, what was that person's name?
Mm-hmm.
What was that about their kids again?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's that meme where uh, a dude goes out with the guys and then he's with his wife later and she's like, "Hey, how's, you know, Bill's wife doing with that cancer treatment?" And he's like, "I don't know. Like, we didn't talk about it."
We didn't talk about that. We talked about, things that we care about.
Right, which that is a terrible example. That actually, okay. But
But it's pretty funny because
yeah,
it is interesting to think about what we retain and what we don't retain. I like this kind of strategy to I'm going to engage with this person because it's going to help me and my memory,
yeah,
right?
so you're going
Like,
to honor, love,
uh-huh.
and then you're getting the side benefit of like working on your brain, like
That's great.
active
Yep.
listening
Yep.
and working on that. I mean, we want to keep these memories
I know.
that, like, doing good.
I agree.
And
Yep.
that'll help you love the person more too, because next time you can be like, how is that kid that's going through
Mm-hmm.
that stuff?
Yep.
So yeah.
Yeah. And that makes them feel loved.
Hmm.
So, can I give some tips on asking better questions?
Yes.
Okay. So the first one is be specific, not general.
Mm, good.
So, and this, you know me, I'm gonna have that rhythm the rest of my tips. Be something, not something. So be
Okay.
general. Sorry, be specific, not general. So I was just talking about this with one of my colleagues, one of my staff who I was meeting with, and we were having a meeting to talk through a death of another colleague that happened this summer.
Yeah, that's right.
And we started the conversation saying, "How are you?" The other person said, "How are you?" And we're just laughing. Like, we have
Yeah.
not, as a species, come up with a better question yet. And it's because "how are you" is so general, and it's not even really a question, it's just a greeting.
Yeah, it might as well just be like, eh.
Right.
It's like a noise. Like when you're walking the hall, like, hey, what's up? Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, exactly.
It's just it's a greeting.
So
But
we
it's
all
funny that
kn
a greeting is a question.
right, we
We
all
don't
know that that's true,
Yeah.
but we still do it, and it's just there's nothing really to do about it. And so what we agreed with is there's nothing you can do about that, right? Like "how are you" is just going to be how people start conversations from now on. The problem with that is if somebody really wants to answer that,
Right. Oh yeah.
it is
Yeah.
kind of hard to answer it. Um, there,
Especially when like you were saying, that something really awful has happened.
right. So that's interesting that you say that because I do think it's better to name that as part of your question and be
Mm,
specific, even if something is happening. And so a better question would be, I know it's been a hard month for you. How are you holding up?
yeah, that's great.
It's a much better question than how are you? Because how are you even hits my ear like you don't actually really want to know.
Funny. Yep. Or like you don't know.
Right.
which I've been
That's
in
true. You
I
don't
mean,
know me and you don't want to.
well, yeah, it's like, uh, yeah, I mean, I've been in that situation before that I forget something's happened
Yeah.
or forget a conversation I had with somebody,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and then you're like, hey, how are you? And they're like, that thing. And you're like, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
you know,
So that happened to me actually last week at church. Somebody that I've been talking to for a while about stuff that's been going on said, "How are you?" And I was like, "Bad." Now, there are people that you can say that to, right?
yeah,
I
you've
would
got to
say
have a few of those. Yes.
the majority of people who ask me that question, I say good because I don't sense that they actually want to know. Now,
So is that a lie?
that's a lie.
Okay.
It's a bald-faced lie.
Well, you can,
But I'm doing
yeah.
everybody a favor with that lie. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I love the sarcastic ones, like living the dream.
Yep. I will say things like, well, I mean, when you ask me how I'm doing, I'm not going to say good.
I know maybe that's like just a great takeaway from this and the Gomers in general is like have somebody or a few people that you can actually answer that question
Hmm.
truthfully. Be like terrible, or I
Well,
mean, remember
and
Tim Ois used to ask me in middle school. He was like, "How's it going, dude?" And I'd be like, "Pretty bad." Like he's like, "At
yeah.
least you're honest."
Yeah. Um, I, there's different levels of what, even like when somebody like you will ask me, "How are you?" Levels of how I can engage with that question, right?
Yeah.
But I know when you ask me a question and you say, "I know you've been going through this.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to talk about it?"
Mm.
Right? That's a great
Yep.
specific question because there I can opt in or not.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think I think asking more specific questions uh, doesn't narrow. Sometimes we don't ask specific questions because we think that narrows the answer. I think it actually gives permission for people to open up and broaden their answers.
Yeah,
So,
that's really good.
saying something to somebody like, "Tell me everything," or "Tell me about your summer." First of all, I
Yep.
don't like that because that feels like a command, and I don't like commands, and then I just don't want to do it at all, right? But um, we have to, if we're going to ask better questions so that people can actually open up to us, ask something more specific. And even if you don't know the person, you can ask something like, "What's something, what's something that you loved about your summer?" Right? That is
Mm-hmm.
so much better than "How are you?"
Mm.
Now, you and I think, get a kick out of like being at a wedding with a table
Yeah.
of people that we don't know and asking something very weird and specific. People
Yeah.
actually, I think, like that about us.
Yeah. Well, I love asking people what are your top favorite movies?
Yeah, that's a great one. Yep.
So
Um,
just like at a wedding table,
hmm
which actually I've only been to like one wedding in the last 10 years, I
I,
think.
we might be aging out. Are we
Yeah,
aging
dude.
out of weddings? Remember when it was like multiples a summer?
Oh yeah. Yep.
And we were like
Totally out of practice.
in weddings
Yeah,
multiples a summer.
right. Totally.
I
Agent stage, dude.
I still find myself at tables with people I don't know.
Well, maybe you're at graduation parties.
Yeah, or just at like conferences. I mean, you were at a
Oh, sure.
conference last week that you didn't know a ton of people at, right?
Totally.
So,
Yeah, yeah.
how are you going to engage with people like that you just met and maybe that you're going to spend time with more time with in the future that is a little bit more specific, and I think that opens people up more.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I was just at, I got my t-shirt, my Credo t-shirt.
yeah,
No, it was like a con like it's not a conference, it's a festival,
right.
and it was like faith meets classical music.
Yeah,
So I mean, being
awesome.
around those tables with world-class classical musicians, I mean, like it was so cool because I would be like, "Tell me your faith journey,"
Right.
and actually, you could ask that anytime.
Hmm.
Um, but it felt like I don't know, it just felt like this really safe, awesome environment where you could just be super vulnerable.
Well, yeah, and I
You
think
know what I mean?
that
Like,
I think that that's good advice too about like knowing your context, which is you were at a conference of people of faith wanting to know
right.
how that connected with their professional lives as classical musicians, right? And so
Yeah.
at a table, you can turn to somebody, do a little bit of small talk, and then say, "Tell me about your faith journey." And that is a specific question that is going to bring you deeply into that person's life and make
Yeah.
them feel honored.
Mm, so fun, dude.
Great. Yeah.
I love when I love that relationship because you're already on a you're just on a level
Yep.
of brother sister
Mm-hmm.
that you can talk about stuff. Like it's almost like you've gone way past surface level within 1.2 seconds,
Yep.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um and then maybe probably still you're like, but you don't want to seem too familiar. Like,
Well, I think if somebody were to ask me that question, I would feel like that person is sincere, not
mm,
trying to be too familiar.
mm,
Um, I think that sometimes if you're like at a work conference, like I can imagine a conference of teachers together and somebody saying, "Well, what brought you into teaching?" Being
mm.
kind of like a just everybody asks this. I wonder what in that
Yeah.
situation would be a better question.
Dude,
Um,
that's really good. Because I get those same, like, as a musician, when,
uh-huh.
I talk to non-musicians,
Yep.
they always ask me the same stuff.
Uh-huh.
That would be
Right.
cool. And it's because it's hard to think of stuff to ask. And I've been in this position thousands of times, and they've
For
been in this
sure.
position like two.
Mm-hmm.
But that would be cool to previs some good
Exactly. That's what
questions.
I was just going to say. What if we just gave a little bit more thought when you know you're going into that situation?
Yeah.
This is a great Gomer's tip. Put just a little bit of thought. Here's a couple interesting questions I could ask people that I'm going to meet for the first time right now,
Mm,
that are
yep.
specific. So that's the first one. General questions are just no good.
Yep.
People like more specific questions,
Hmm.
and you should ask them. The other one is the next one is be open, not
Mm,
closed. This has to do with don't ask yes and no questions
okay.
because most of the time we talked about this in the listening one. There is an answer that when I ask a yes or no question, there's one I want you to say, and it's apparent in my question asking.
Mm,
The example I gave was when I got back from Ireland and somebody ran up to me and said, wasn't I was Ireland just the most amazing thing you've ever done?"
mm,
And so
yep.
then I was like, she wants me to say yes,
Yep.
but that it wasn't the most amazing thing I've ever done. There were some really hard things about it. She doesn't want to know that. And so then I just say yes. It's a closed question. The other problem with closed questions is there's no like then she just left. Like
Right.
she didn't ask me how it was. And so it sounds like such a like basic tip, but did you do this or not? The only answer to that is yes or no. And
Right.
so starting a question with what or where or who or how, I would say
Mm,
what or how are the best. Why can get tricky, I think.
mm,
Why I think you need a little bit of a deeper, if you're going to be asking people why questions, I don't think it's a wedding table situation.
yeah,
Because,
because you could get interrupted or
well, I just
like,
think why can feel a little bit like that is too familiar. Like now you're asking me
ah,
about my intentions, or
okay, yeah,
even though I guess why did you get into teaching? I think what I mean is that if you're responding to something somebody said and you're saying why,
why?
why did you do that, or why might you do that? That is excellent when you're in a one-on-one with somebody that you're close to.
Mm-hmm.
And so you should ask why questions. That's important to deepen relationships. But for some reason, I have this party on my mind. I wasn't asking any why questions.
Mm, yep,
I was asking, where is this from? Oh, tell me more about that. How did you get into Kodak, right? Like
yeah,
that. Or when I was talking to some of your musician friends, I remember
yep,
asking, how long have you been playing? Right?
yeah,
And then I would ask, what's your favorite part of that? Like,
Uh-huh.
what do you, why did you, I guess that is a why question. What brought you to that instrument instead of that one?
Yeah.
So why can feel a little bit personal, even though I do
Sure. No,
think
I
that's
get
better
that.
than yes or no.
Yeah. What about like big gulps, eh? Well, see you later.
Okay.
I mean,
That's a great transition to the third one, which is be curious, not judgmental.
mm, okay, so we need this. Okay, you know what? We're heading into election season,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
Um, we're going to be having probably a lot of conversations. I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
this fits into that at all, and we certainly don't need to talk about politics or anything like that, but
Right.
I don't know. I kind of feel like that falls under this vein a little bit, like, right?
Yep. Um, if somebody feels judged by a question you're asking, that's the ball game. They're done.
Mm.
And so if you really
Why
want
would
to
you do that? Ugh.
so tone, I was thinking about tone in questions too. I haven't like
Mm.
I don't have anything on my notes about tone, but there is something that I work hard on when I'm asking question, which is I want to disarm,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
almost always that is with tone.
Yeah,
I can
absolutely.
ask a why question with the right tone, and I could even ask a political why question in the right tone,
Sure.
and people would answer me. I don't think they are often asked in the right tone.
Yeah, I mean, I've been like been felt judged
Mm-hmm.
by tone.
Oh yeah.
And probably if you were to read the text
Mm-hmm.
of the conversation, you'd be like, why did you feel judged by that? That was a perfectly fine question to ask. You know
Well,
what I mean?
and
But
speaking of text, sometimes that's the hardest part about text because
yeah,
you don't know
right.
the tone. And so then I'm like adding an emoji to every single question I ask so people don't think I'm being rude.
Right.
Because I'm curious about this. I think that when
Right.
you're one-on-one, the tone of your voice, you can't underestimate um what that means to someone. Body
Hmm.
language is there too, right? Like um you can ask questions in two different tones, and one can be curious and one can be judgmental. And
Hmm.
I think as the question asker, you need to be keeping a check on that.
Mm.
And if
Yep.
when I have asked a why question, especially, and it's come off as judgmental, I'll back off of it.
Mm.
I'll say, "Ugh, you know what, that's not how I meant it to come out. Like I really
Sure.
want to know because I want to understand you more.
Hmm.
Why did you make that decision instead of that one?" Um,
Hmm.
Politics is hard because you have an opinion and it's usually strong and you usually think the other person's dumb. I don't know.
I know. Well, that is a that's a hard one when you travel a lot or when you go into a bunch of different circles
Hmm.
or that you're with a family and then you're with another family and then you're at a table with people and then you're at
Oh,
a
right.
table with a bunch of different groups of people.
Hmm.
I mean that's probably why they like the old adage of don't talk about religion or politics at the dinner table
Right.
fits in because it's like it's already um I don't know, like animosity
It's
or
already charged
oh
in
yeah,
a
and
certain
we're
way.
like
Yeah.
we're in an insanely charged environment. That's actually why when I hear really smart people having conversations that aren't emotionally charged, like I'm always kind of amazed and I like
Yeah.
to listen.
Hmm.
I mean, even when they get a good, right and left kind of I don't even watch the news anymore right now.
Right.
But like even when um an intelligent conversation is happening like that between disagreeing parties and they're listening and they're asking good questions and they're disagreeing but honoring on some level. I'm
Yeah.
always kind of amazed at that.
Well, and I think the key probably to talking heads yelling at each other on the news versus once in a while you see people that are actually having a civil conversation is questions. that
Yeah.
when it's the contention, there nobody's asking anybody other questions unless you're sarcastic, right?
Right.
Um, I'm gonna double back and say, sorry, I said that you think other people are dumb if you're having
Yeah. Yeah.
political conversations. I think what I meant is that sometimes it's just hard to understand. You're so committed to what you believe, it's hard to understand why somebody else would believe something different, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I think that that's an opportunity for curiosity. Not in all cases you would ask, but instead of that equaling what I just did, which is saying that person's dumb, that you actually say, okay, what if this person has come to that conclusion because they have a conviction
Mm-hmm.
that's good?
Yeah.
Now now all of a sudden I'm curious. Um, Not everybody is going to be willing to go with you there. But I do think even in something as charged as politics, it's possible to ask curious questions
Mm.
rather than just making judgments. And now I think that you can also, I think my point here is that even your questions can come off as judgmental.
Yep.
Um,
Absolutely.
and it takes a lot of work to ask questions that are more welcoming, right? I'm curious, I want to learn. Even if my mind isn't changed, I'm curious to hear why you think the way you do.
Mm. Yeah, that's really good, dude.
And then my last tip is not a B, not is
Oh
not in
man.
that structure. It's ask questions the other person would actually enjoy answering. So
Ask enjoyable
yeah,
answering.
you mentioned what are your top five movies? People like talking about that.
Yeah.
Unless they say I don't watch movies, then you can say what do you like? What are you reading?
Yeah. Do you
People,
like to read? Do you like,
yes.
yeah.
Oh, if like you're on the plane, right? My
Mm-hmm.
my my strategy is to not ask any questions until we're landing, just in case,
Dude.
just in case we get into something that isn't at the beginning, and then I'm like, uh-oh, here we
Yep.
go. Um, so I'm quiet until we land, but then I start asking the person sitting next to me questions, and if they are reading something, I always ask, "What are you reading, and how do you like it?"
That's good.
People love answering that question
Hmm.
because they want people to know that they're readers,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
We're proud of this, right? But also they're involved in something right now, a story, and they want to talk about it. And they
Yeah.
also like to tell their opinion about it. So that's the movies question is one that almost everybody enjoys answering. What are you reading? People love answering that question. Um, a question that I have found people love answering is if they are telling me something, um, I ask them to give me examples of something they just said.
Hmm.
So this just happened to me when I was talking with Hack on the phone a couple weeks ago. I was telling him about something that's hard in my life. I said something broad and emotional, and Ryan said, "Can you give me an example of what you mean by that?" And I was
Hmm.
like, "You bet. I cannot wait to give you examples of what I'm talking about right now because I want somebody to listen to me." And he knew, I don't know if he even consciously thought this, but he knew it would be helpful for Stephen to actually give some examples so they can
Hmm.
voice those. And he was right. And so that's a great question to ask. Um, Anything that you can tell when you're talking to somebody and listening to somebody that they're emotionally invested in, and any question that you can ask to go a layer deeper, people enjoy asking those questions.
Hmm.
Sorry, answering those questions. I don't think anybody likes to answer the question, "How are you?"
All the way back to that, dude.
I just don't.
All the way back to that.
There's nothing we can do about it. I don't know why I'm beating this dead horse. Besides that, I wanted to say
Is
that
there
again, that horse idiom.
yeah. D- is there like I want to look that up like ways to say hello. Like
How's
Guten
it
Tag.
hanging? I guess you could say, "How's it hanging?"
How's
That's
it
more
hanging?
specific.
good morning.
Yeah, you can always
Uh,
say that.
uh, nice to meet you. Pleasure to meet you. Oh, that's.
I know.
Oh,
I
oh
could just
wait.
play the five tones from Close Encounters whenever I meet
Yeah,
somebody.
just go up to be like, ooh, ooh, ooh. Totally.
Certainly shut down conversation if I didn't want to talk to the person.
Be like, that guy is weird, man.
Um,
Although, in the right context,
yeah, it could be. I mean, that could be the best greeting they've ever gotten. We're running out of time. Can I just do a real
okay.
bonus, just a real quick bonus about eye contact?
Okay, great.
Um, I have been I've been going back and forth on eye contact.
Okay, interesting. Let's hear this.
And um I don't think it always works.
Is
I
it
think
Harvard Business Review style? Like,
this is my this Harvard Business Review I think would say make eye contact and hold it, right?
right. Yeah, yeah, totally.
Um I don't actually think, and maybe this is a Gen Z thing.
Mm.
I have found that it kind of backfires on me, that it makes people feel uncomfortable.
So eye contact is off-putting, like almost.
It, I've been
It
noticing that more and more. And so when I ask
interesting.
somebody a question, um, I don't know where I'm averting my eyes, but I am. I like my preferred way of meeting someone is walking side by side.
Sure.
So we both have something to do, right?
Uh-huh.
I was even thinking about this the other day. I was watching an episode of Cheers, and I was like, is that why
Mm.
bars are set up the way they are?
Side
Because
by side,
dudes
yeah.
can look at something that's not them and open up to one another.
Dude, that is a profound insight. I'm sure that was. I'm sure it's just functional. Like we can't
Right.
build a all face seats to face each other.
Right. I don't
But
think some relational psychologist built bars
yeah,
for
yeah,
the first
like
time, right?
the saloon in 1885, where um, they went in Back to the Future. Like probably wasn't designed by a social psychologist.
Right.
Um, but is that why we're so comfortable there, and then why they kept building that?
Right. I think
You
that's
know,
my question.
like
Um,
yeah, because you can all watch TV together.
mhm. That's
Like
what
you
I'm
can
talking about.
all watch. Like, I mean, have you been to people's houses where the TV is always on?
Yeah, I don't love that. But then
But
again, when you all sit in a circle and try to have a conversation, sometimes that's even worse.
I know, like, so I was thinking about like we went over to our pastor's house in New York once when we lived there,
Uh-huh.
and we had a really fun night.
Yeah.
And I just remember we sat. There were like 2 hours where we just sat in the living room and the TV was on,
Uh-huh.
and I thought it was weird because
It is a
that's
little
something we,
weird. It is a
yeah,
little
yeah.
weird.
But at the same time, in lulls, it was like, huh, let's
Uh-huh.
watch that for a little while, and then like talk about what's happening on there.
Yep.
But in general, I actually don't prefer that. I don't like.
No.
I'm just you've been there, right?
I think what I'm saying is that I think that maybe after an episode like this, people would be expect, especially because I did mention body language a little bit, that I would say like I make sure you're making solid eye contact with people because that makes them feel honored and loved.
Right.
I don't think that that's always true, and I'm wondering if it's rarely true, especially with someone you don't know yet. Um, I would
That's
also
so
say that
interesting.
it's not very true with teenage boys, is what I'm noticing. Is I have better conversations when we're doing something together and facing in the same direction.
Hmm.
So it's just something I've learned. And I also think, and maybe I can just end with this. Sometimes questions are really purely based on context, and a question that could work with one person won't with another. And sometimes I have to change the way I'm asking questions to certain people in my life so that they continue to be open with me. Um, so this isn't a exact science, but I think that if you can be more open, more specific, more curious, and think about what kind of question does this person actually want to answer, you'll develop in your relational health.
Nice. It's
All
great,
right,
dude.
dude.
Love it.
Um, should we close this up and talk about what's giving us life this week?
Let's do it.
Sweet.
All right, let's clap. 1, 2, 3, clap.
Clap. 1, 2, 3, clap.
Clap.
All right, here we are on What's Giving Us Life this week. We always like to close on a high.
Mm.
What's making us joyful? What's bringing us energy in our lives? You want to go first? Should I? What do you think?
Are you really asking me that?
I
Is
am
that a leading
curious.
question?
I am curious. I gave you only two options. Sorry.
Yes. So wait, who's going first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
How about that? Now I just made an executive decision. The New York Times just came out with the best books of the 21st century. 100
Oh,
best
I
books of the
saw that.
21st century.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if you saw that because I signed in as you to read it.
There you go. That's actually funny because I've been getting how to ask questions on my Instagram feed.
Well, that's the algorithm.
That's
They knew
total
this. They
algorithm.
knew this episode was coming up.
Mm-hmm.
I guess as while I'm talking about signing in as you, the other thing that they did is this kind of if you go to their best books of the 21st century, there's a cool thing because you can scroll down and you can say, I read this or I want to read this. And so I did that, but it's under your name.
Liar. Now it's gonna look like I'm a total liar.
So it's actually they have a podcast I like too, the New York Times Book Review, where they've been talking about this for a while. What they did was they asked authors to make a 10-book roster of their top 10 books of the 21st century so far, and then they just use those rosters to do the top 100.
Wow.
The roster that's getting the most juice is Stephen King, who put one of his own books it's top 10, which if you like Stephen King, you like that about him. And if you don't, you don't.
Yeah.
I personally really liked that he put one of his own books on there. Um, uh, I've read 17 of them. The thing that is giving me life about it is that there's 83 more that I haven't read. And so, you feel kind of good, like, okay, I've read some of these. But man, it has brought me so much life to just read through the list, be introduced to books that I'd never read before, or heard of before. Um, put about 20 new books on my to read list for next year.
Nice.
It's just the kind of thing that if it's done well and there's a good like a good user interface on one of these things, and
Yep.
there's a podcast about it with people that I like talking about books. I think sometimes I like listening to people talk about books just as much as I like reading books. And so this has been
Yeah.
a great summer for me with the whole process of them putting this together and then putting them out about a month ago. So that's the New York Times top 100 books of the 21st century so far. It's been so fun.
Aren't we only 24 years into this?
Yeah.
I thought
And
that
so it's
when I saw that list, I was like, wait, we're only 24 years in. What?
So it's the 21st century so far. I
Right.
think the plan is what they've been talking about is they're going to renew this list every decade.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
Yep. So they're going to ask new authors to chime in. They're going to use this current list, and they're going to, by the end of the 21st century, have the ultimate top 100 of the century.
Then we're not going to be there though to see
No, we
that.
don't, and none of those people that are putting it together are going to be there.
Wow.
It's kind of cool. They're lasting longer than they're
That's
living.
kind of cool.
Yeah. So
Nice.
giving me a lot of life. What about you?
Sweet. Okay. We've never got to talk about this because summer's over and we only had a few episodes this summer.
Right.
Let me just say, all the way back to June, just basically swim team and summer camps have given our girls and the musical like so much life this summer to have fun things to do. We didn't get to go back to Wisconsin this year for the first time ever.
Right.
And that's because we got to do so many fun things. Specifically the girls, well, us too, but you start to just want your kids to learn, grow, thrive, have fun all summer. And I loved seeing them make new friends, do new things, and swim team was fun. And I never got to mention it. I probably dropped something in there, but I thought of these three things real quick. Okay.
Okay.
So I watched Isla just crushing. She's really good at the breaststroke. She's
Mhm.
like the best 7'8", I
Mm.
think, male and female.
Wow,
Like
sweet.
I think she's the so she's really good. She like loves that stroke. And but I watched her do this one race and she got like second or whatever.
Mhm.
And I noticed three things why.
Okay.
Okay. So this is a little quick sermon. Okay. And why it pertains to middle age. Okay.
Okay.
Momentum. Okay,
Uh-huh.
she had momentum, but then right before the finish, she looked to the other lane
Mm.
to see how the person next to her was doing,
Yeah.
and she lost momentum.
Definitely not supposed to do that, right? Run your
Yeah, I
like
mean we
race
all
your own
do it.
race, but it's the analogy is apt. I get what you mean.
Yep. And then she lost a couple places. Okay.
Hmm.
And so I was talking with her afterwards, and I was like, girly, like you gotta just focus straight forward. That'll keep that momentum going. You're
Yep.
not looking at the people on your right or your left,
Hmm.
and then you can finish well. And I was like, dude, those are my three things in middle age. We need momentum, we need to not compare, and
Uh-huh.
then finish
Finish
well.
well. It's great.
I was like, it was a little swim team sermonette
I love
that I
that.
learned from watching some super cool 8-year-olds
Yeah.
swimming. But just seeing them be just little athletes, even though
Hmm.
they're not gonna go to like Olympics or anything. I'm not speaking that over them negatively. I'm like, they don't even care. Like swim
Who
teams when you're younger, you haven't
cares?
even swam
Yeah.
since.
Yeah.
It's just
Right. Yeah.
fun.
It's
They're
just
doing
fun.
athletic stuff.
Summer fun.
Summer fun. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I love it.
Proud of both of them. They're
Yeah, me
doing
too.
great.
Yeah,
Athletics,
man.
musical. What a
Mm,
time.
so fun. I mean, like that's just in middle age, you just don't get to do that stuff anymore.
Part of why I have kids, so you can like still do that stuff, or at least be
Yeah,
there.
totally. Yeah, for sure.
All right, dude. Well, we want to hear from you, Nation. What do you think about all of this? What do you think about asking good questions? If you have tips that we forgot or missed, you can let us know. The best way to contact us is through Instagram. Follow us on Instagram. That's Two Gomers. And you can find our link tree in our bio with all things Gomers. Or you can call us on the Gomer phone. That number is
608-622-7669. That's 608 NBA Pony.
Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe or follow us on whatever podcast app you're listening to right now. Thank you to Davis for our music, Jason and Eric for our graphics, Adam, our webmaster, and Lindsay, our social media maestro. Especially thank you to our Gomertrons. You subscribe to our second podcast, The Bonus Disc, on Patreon, not only home to our monthly movie show, Perfect Movie, where we just covered Batman 1989 and National Treasure and Close Encounters of the Third Kind, but extra episodes like Perfect Movie Theater Experiences, Gomer Jobs 3 Post College Edition, and this month's School Supply Draft. I cannot wait for that, bro. Up to 4 episodes per month, depending on the level at which you subscribe. All that and more is at patreon.com/2gomers. So we welcome your support and we thank you.
Nice, dude. Thanks for that practical app.
No probs. You gotta have one
Better
of those once in a
listeners.
while.
Oh, yeah. Dig it. I'm going to be looking forward to my next conversations.
Yeah. Try it out, folks. Let us know how it goes. Ask better questions. Thanks for listening. Great app.
Super fun, man. And remember, everybody, if we can be specific, open, curious, have beautiful, disarming tone, ask enjoyable questions, give examples, focus on forward momentum, not comparing, and finishing well,
Wait a
you can
minute.
too.
Somebody's been taking notes. And happy running.
Oh, gosh. All right.
That's awesome.
Let's finish that. 1, 2, 3, stop.
Great.
So
Under
fun.
115. That's great.
Yeah, it's great.
Bye, everybody.